Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, Misty Morrison, and this is episode 26 of Petty Please. Here on the Misty Morrison Podcast, we like to judge, we like to give advice, we like all the petty drama. But before we get into our pettiness for the day, our usual housekeeping, whether you are new or returning, please remember to engage with the content to help the channel grow. Whether you are enjoying on audio or video format, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, comment down below with your thoughts on the stories. Let me know what you think. Every little bit of engagement and activity helps. So on to our petty drama for today. Story number 1 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Input, output, poot poot. This tale of petty revenge shall be my last. Let's face it, one can only live through so many petty revenges worth telling in almost half a century on this planet, and I think 3 is a pretty good number, all things considered. It all began in a tiny village in the most rural, backward-thinking part of southern France. The one where the natives call you a foreigner because your parents moved to the area some 15 years ago and still begrudge them the fact that they bought, gasp, shock, horror. They'd still be grasping at pearls if they knew what pearls are and were not too stingy to buy some. Think, I'd rather use a piece of string as a belt instead of buying a new one level of stinginess. A disguised piece of land from a local farmer that dared to sell it to some outsiders that talk French funny. This hideous, scandalous, and unforgivable crime was not forgotten, and during the decade that followed, this unprecedented, cataclysmic event that shook the foundation of this very close-knit community to its very core. So close, in fact, that they were more or less, and sometimes unbeknown to them, related by blood. Even God does not know what happens with whom in the hayloft. My family got to feel the wrath of the village at every possible turn. From disparaging remarks, half-assed attempts at bullying on the schoolyard, nipped in the bud by the school teachers, to blatant intimidation by the local Hunters Association, met in kind by my father and his .44 Magnum. Administrative headaches, like the decision to have a communal road go through the middle of our living room, promptly squashed once lawyering up was mentioned. Life in southern France felt like bliss. It is fair to say that my family had a somehow conflicted relationship with most of the natives. And when the wannabe road builder mayor decided that it was time to propel the village in a new century by having a communal sewage system set up for the old village, imagine a picturesque medieval place with narrow, winding roads lined up with sun-backed limestone houses and shit running down the gutter. The outsiders like us were living in new builds outside of the village, outfitted with septic tanks. 20th century style, running water and all. The news was greeted with lukewarm enthusiasm by my family and friends. At first, the lukewarm enthusiasm quickly turned to outrage because it turns out that rules for thee, not for me, the mayor decided to pull his own house out of the scheme. Monsieur was too stingy to pay for his share of the cost for the communal works and connection. So for a couple of years, I had to listen to my father rage about this dirty, rotten bastard making our life a living hell, while his piss and shit was flowing down the streets unpunished. Someone should teach him a lesson by plugging his shithole with expanding foam, was the usual sentence my dad would utter when driving past the mayor's house. To add insult to injury, the shithole in question was a pipe poking down from a stone arch, with the precious excrement of the mayor dripping down a few steps carved into the limestone. A wonderful place ruined to save a bit of money at the expense of everybody else. After all that, it should come as no surprise that one of the first trips I took on my moped when I turned 14 was to the hardware store in the next town where I purchased 4 cans of expanding foam. The next night, my best friend and I sneaked out of our houses and went down to the village on foot. What we did, I hope you guessed. By the time I moved out of the village 6 years later, people were still talking about the morning when the mayor's morning dump overflowed from his clogged toilet and how he slipped on a puddle of piss and shit at his front door while rushing out to see what was the issue. Because why stop at the back when you can also do the front? After the cans had fulfilled their role, we decided that his front door could do with a bit of homemade decoration, and gave the good man a taste of the medicine he so generously shared with all of us for so many years. Ooh, that was a lot. I don't know that it was petty, that what you finally did was petty, because it sounds like he was really petty for a long time. And petty begets petty. But that sounds nasty. I don't think I could have done it. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Don't lie about leaving kids in your car in the Texas heat to get a parking spot. A few years ago during COVID, I had the pregnant wife and 3 kids with me as we stopped to get groceries at H-E-B. Not an ideal situation to have the entire circus together for grocery shopping, but it was what it was. It's summer, it's Texas, and it's hot. Think 95 degrees in the sun and 135 degrees plus in a car with the windows up. As we look for a spot in the very busy parking lot, a guy coming down the aisle in the other direction cuts in front of us and parks in the expectant mother or with children parking. Giant douche. We park a lot further down the aisle, and as we're walking towards the store, this guy gets out of his car off, windows up, and starts walking in front of us to get to the store. I'm not sure why it took him 5 minutes to get out of his car after being in such a hurry to park, but I figure it's consistent with the narcissistic personality. I say to him while pushing the stroller, "Hey, that parking is really for pregnant women and for families with small children." He says, "Yes, the kids are in the car," in a very dismissive way, making it very clear he thought that was an okay thing to say. But I decided to play along with his BS and reply, "It's too hot for anyone to be left in a car without air conditioning. That's not safe." We're getting close to the front of the store. He waves me off and says, "They'll be fine, don't worry about it." I decide he has just warranted some payback, as my wife and I are trying to keep 2 kids, 4 years and 2 years, from running in front of cars for 300 feet further in a very busy parking lot, while pushing another in a stroller, than we would have if he had not taken the space, almost as if those spaces have a purpose. As we enter the store, there is a manager near the front, and I approach her and tell her word for word what this gentleman said to me and point him out. I tell her I didn't see any kids in the car, but I didn't look closely. I thought someone should know about the exchange. This grocery store chain ranks just below a religious institution in Texas, and they take their community involvement, sports, celebrity commercials, PR, and image seriously. They are not going to ignore a possible life-threatening situation. Kids and pets in cars in Texas summers can die in less than 15 minutes. The store typically has a police presence on site, more for peace of mind and criminal deterrence than anything else. If this guy actually did have kids in the car, I have a responsibility to report it. My belief of whether or not what he said was true is, frankly, inconsequential. All I had to do was repeat exactly what he said to the right person, and his words would be his own undoing. Manager says, "Thank you, we will look right into it." And I decide whatever happens, I've only repeated exactly what he said to me and was honest that I didn't see any kids in the car. We finish our shopping about 25 minutes after entering, and as we are walking to our car, Giant Douche is standing next to his car and animatedly speaking to a constable that has a very disapproving look on his face. I smile and think to myself, he'll be fine, don't worry about it. I like it. I mean, really, you're going to steal a parking spot. I think, first, that's really impressive that a store would dedicate a parking spot to pregnant women or families with young kids. I've seen some stores that will have like parking spots for law enforcement or first responders to make it faster for them to get in and out of the store. I think that's great. H-E-B does that for families too. And to think you have the nerve to take that spot from people that need it. Like, it is there for a reason. To think you have the nerve to take that spot, and then when someone calls you out, you're just like, "Oh, well, yeah, I have kids in the car." That's possibly worse than not having anyone with you at all and taking the spot for no reason, than admitting in Texas summer you left people in the car. The spot is literally there, so it's easier for you to get your people into the store with you. Yeah, that was a dumb move. And I'm glad you said something. Very glad. So he's either going to he's not going to get in trouble because there wasn't anybody in the car, but he's very embarrassed now, and he's probably not going to pull that shit again. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/petty revenge. Don't want to answer our request for a walkthrough and key exchange? Then we will leave without letting you know. Finding affordable housing where I live is nearly impossible. So when my roommate and I finally managed to secure an apartment through an acquaintance, we were thrilled. It felt like a huge relief even though the rent was higher than what we could comfortably afford. Because the rent included utilities and internet, we convinced ourselves it was worth it and decided to overlook a few glaring red flags. It did not take long before the problem started. The first time was when our electricity was cut off, not because of us, but because our landlord had not paid the bill. We spent 5 days without power, which also meant we lost everything in the fridge. Legally, this meant we were not required to pay rent for those days, but when we pointed this out, our landlord flat out refused to reimburse us. Taking him to court would have cost more time and money than simply letting it go. Then it happened again. The heating was cut in November. After that, the internet began getting cut every other month. Eventually, we just started paying the internet provider directly to ensure we had a stable connection. Through all of this, we never once failed to pay our rent on time. The problem was our landlord. He simply was not passing it on. The final straw came when the police showed up at our apartment with a search warrant in his name. They searched the entire place, even barging in on me while I was in the shower. That was the moment we knew we had to leave. In truth, we had decided long before to move out, but finding a new place in this market was incredibly difficult. We did give him notice. We sent a text with our departure date, requested a walkthrough, and asked about exchanging the keys and deposit. We also mailed a formal letter to his legally registered address. Yes, this is an actual thing in Germany. Though, of course, his registered address was our apartment. In the letter, we included documentation of the utility cuts and the police search as grounds for breaking the contract. He never responded. Not to our text, not to our mail, no call, nothing. He ghosted us. We already saw that we would never see our deposit. He's clearly not great with money. So we left, no rotting food in the fridge and no shrimp in a lamp, but we didn't bother to clean up either. But here is where the petty revenge kicks in. After months of being ignored, after being left without heat, power, and internet, and after the drama of the police walking through our place, we walked away. And now he is the one desperately texting us daily, begging to know if we are going to pay rent, pleading for us to respond, asking if we could scan his important mail that is still arriving at our old address. If ghosting is his game, we are more than happy to play. I like this one. Really, he ignored you for months and all of a sudden he wants something from you? This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you picked out this place because internet, electricity, everything was included in one set fee for the month. Having that one set fee can make it easier. But that your landlord had the nerve to let your electricity get cut off, let your internet get cut off when you paid the bills. I don't know if he was just pocketing the money or I don't know what the deal was. But that's really weird. If he was just pocketing it or if he just couldn't remember to pay it on time, he should not be a landlord. I'm really glad you ghosted him the same way that he did you. I mean, knowing that you were not going to get your deposit or anything back, you had nothing to gain from playing nice with him. He didn't play nice with you. Fair is fair. Fair is fair. Wow, that's a shitty situation. Story number 4 is coming to us from r/entitled people. Lady tried to cut in front of me to order. I have a 30-minute lunch. It's not a strict 30 minutes, but I like to go out, grab food quickly, then get back to my desk to eat comfortably. I went to Walmart this time because the food at the hot bar is cheap and it's close to my work. They are always understaffed, so as usual, when I walk up to the hot bar, there's no one behind the counter. I'm waiting for maybe 2 minutes before 3 kids come running and yelling from the grocery section, pointing at the food and pressing their noses up against the glass. Their mom finally comes around from the produce while talking loudly on the phone and stands uncomfortably close to me. The employee eventually makes her way out, maybe a 5 to 6 minute wait at this point, and kind of looks at both of us and says, "How may I help you?" I'm about to order when the mom speaks up and starts to order. I immediately tell her, "No, I was here first and I'm in a rush." The mom literally had a surprised Pikachu face and stammered something I didn't hear because I started to order and walked away with my platter. I'm usually a non-confrontational person, but clearly she had all the time, leisurely walking through Walmart and was ordering for multiple people. On what earth would she go ahead of me? I hated having to speak up, but proud that I did. Sorry, we're not NPCs in your world. Everyone else has stuff going on too. I don't know what NPC is. I'm not going to look it up. But yeah, the nerve. Like, clearly, you can see, you know who was there before you. Don't be rude. Don't get in the way. That is so entitled, and really so many people will rely on the fact that you are too non-confrontational to say anything, that you'll just be like, "Oh, no big deal, I'll just wait and go after them." No, you were there first. You were waiting. You have more important things to do than standing around Walmart waiting for food. Yeah, I'm also very non-confrontational, so I don't know if I would have said anything, but I'm glad you did. And I would hope that I also would be like, "No, I was here first," and go about my way. And the fact that she was just so shocked that you did makes it really funny. Story number 5 is coming to us from r/entitled people. Entitled mom tried to fight me in the cinema after I asked her kid to stop going on his phone. Happened to me this weekend. My partner and I went to a late night movie on the first date night we've had in months. We have a 2-year-old toddler, so getting time can be difficult. During the film, this teenage kid in front of me lifts up his phone and starts taking pictures of the screen and posting them to Instagram. I let it slide 3 times before gently nudging his seat and asking him not to do that. He turns around with the most annoyed and surprised look on his face, as if he'd never heard the word no before. Tells me to F off and watch the movie and stop bothering him. Despite this, he puts down his phone, and I think it's sorted. Lo and behold, 2 minutes later, he does it again, except now he's lifting his phone higher and seemingly trying to get it even more in my face. So I lean over again and ask him to stop doing it, or I'll go and get the staff. Again, he tells me to F off, but now his mother decides to interject loudly, telling me to mind my own effing business, and that I shouldn't tell her kid what to do. I repeat asking if she'd like me to get the staff. She swears at me, tells me to effing do it. Half the cinema is staring at this point, so I get up and get a staff member. While I'm gone, this lady turns around and stares my partner down for over a minute, pulling the fingers at her and just being a general ass. I return with a staff member who takes the mother outside for around 10 minutes. About 5 minutes into that, the husband goes out to join the conversation. Eventually, they come back and lean over to tell the kid not to go on his phone anymore. The kid then loudly exclaims, "Effing retard!" I just sigh and try to enjoy the film. He spends the rest of the film endlessly fidgeting and moving his hands around as high as possible. Not ideal, but better than watching this kid's Insta feed. At the end of the film, as I go to leave, they turn and stare me down, so I respond, "You need to learn some respect." The kid starts grabbing his crotch, making faces, and being a little weirdo. I kind of laugh and tell them to grow up and get effed. As we're leaving, we pass them in the hall, and one of them mutters, "So mature." At this point, I'm effing done with it, so I turn to the mother and say, "You're an absolute failure as a parent. You should be ashamed of yourself." Naturally, this doesn't sit well, and she starts losing her absolute shit. She steps into me, a 6'2" man, screaming in my face that I should F off and mind my own business, that I have no right to tell her kids what to do. I reply that she's clearly incapable, so someone needs to. If she isn't going to tell them, then I gladly will. This flips her switch even further, and now she's literally trying to fight me, telling me I have no right. I'm like, "Lady, what are you going to do about it?" She copies me back, "What are you going to do about it, huh? You gonna hit me?" I laugh in her face and tell her no, because I'm not effing pathetic. At this point, her husband steps in, holding her back, yelling at me, "Why are you attacking my kids, bro?" I repeat, your failures as parents, as no parent to another would you as no parent I repeat, your failures as parents. As one parent to another, you absolutely disgust me. You need to stop acting like children and grow the F up. At this point, everyone in the hallway is staring at us. This lady's screaming, the husband is holding her back and yelling how I'm such a loser for attacking their kids. So my partner and I just turn and leave. I'll admit, I threw back a few curses of my own on the way out. Probably not the best of me, but at that point, I was just done. Date night ended on a bit of a low, but I walked away happy knowing that those sorts of people will inevitably get themselves in more trouble than they can deal with. Oh. That's a lot. I mean, as annoying as that is, I probably wouldn't have said anything because, again, I'm a little non-confrontational because you don't know what situation you're going to end up in if you say something, because that should have been a simple situation as, hey, you're being really rude. I can't see the screen. Please keep your phone down. That should have been it. Like, the kid either should have listened and been a polite human being, or the parents should have stepped in when the kid didn't listen to say, hey, you're being rude, knock it off. It should have been that simple. But no, instead you are yelling and screaming and swearing and fighting with people in the hallway of a theater because both the parents and the child are all children. This behavior is wild to me, and this behavior is also why a lot of people are afraid to speak up anymore, because people will treat them like this. And this is just absolutely bizarre. I don't really curse that much. I don't know how long I would have allowed myself to be in this situation. Yeah, but you're right. They are failures as parents. But it's obvious, their kid is acting just the way they were. They are entitled. They think the world revolves around them. Nobody else matters. There's a comment first thing that says, you were able to get in some time at the cinema away from your toddler. They had to bring their toddler with them. He's going to be living in their basement at 30. And that sounds very accurate, because he's still acting like a child. He's not willing to take accountability for his own actions. It sounds like an older teenager. Did you say how old? Just teenage kid. Okay. But still, just let his, was acting wrong and fully expected that his parents were going to stick up for him, and they did, it just blows my mind. People are wild. Okay. All right. That is 5 stories for this week's episode of Petty Please. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast, and I will see you next time. Bye.